Call of Duty was a game back in the day, but before that, the same guys made Medal of Honor, and before that, we had Wing Commander, and before that was World War II. If you try to go any further back, records get extremely fuzzy. Luckily, our journey starts in 2003 with the release of the smash hit game Call of Duty. It was developed by a brand new studio, Infinity Ward, after DreamWorks wouldn't let them do their thing with the Medal of Honor games. Sadly, as popular as Call of Duty was, only PCs could make it happen, so Activision commissioned a side game for console players, Call of Duty Finest Hour. It's awful, but got okay reviews at the time. However, Infinity Ward was not involved with that game, as they were hard at work with the big sequel to their big game, Call of Duty 2. That sequel would eventually release in the fall of '05, 2 years after the first game, making it the longest gap we have ever seen between mainline COD entries. This game, Call of Duty 2, was still too much for those old consoles, but luckily Microsoft were ready with their brand new Xbox just in time for a month after Call of Duty 2 would release on PC. But the Xbox 360 would get it as a launch title a few weeks later. There was also a last-gen companion game released alongside this one for all the poor people stuck on those consoles, Call of Duty 2 Big Red 1. Watch my video about it, it's really good, Treyarch's first Call of Duty. But it was not big money. What Infinity Ward was cooking, that was big money. They were armed with more experience, a higher budget, and the eyes of the world watching. I'm mostly here to talk about the campaign, which was still considered the main course back then. So were they able to improve upon everything they accomplished with the first game? I mean, yeah, this is pretty much a better game in every single way. At first, my memories of the original game were a little blurry since I played 2 other COD campaigns since then. They sort of started to blend together, but once I started playing this game, it quickly started to feel like the real follow-up to Call of Duty 1. Even this early on, it was easy to see the difference between an Infinity Ward COD, a Treyarch COD, and a shitty third studio COD. And to be honest, I'm starting to remember why I used to prefer the Black Ops games over Modern Warfare. Not that Call of Duty 2 was a bad game at all, let's dive in. As is tradition at this point, after the opening logos, we get to watch a very heroic cutscene before transitioning into the main menu. Unlike the last two, we're back on the training base for a nice little tutorial mission, which we did in the first game, but that was a chill, calm American army base. This one's a sad, snowy Russian army base, but the principle is the same, a tutorial. The control scheme in this game is much closer to our modern controls. The button layout is basically exactly the same as what we see today, thank God. Right stick to melee, R1 to throw grenade, L1 to throw secondary grenade, you can mantle walls, and best of all, crouch and stop crouch are the same buttons, so I'm alright now. Sprinting is not in the game, and you can no longer lean out from behind cover, which was a staple of the last 3 games, but I knew that mechanic wasn't long for this world as I have played other COD. The biggest change of all is the implementation of regenerating health, doing away with the health pack system. This really streamlines the healing, for better or for worse. A lot of people think this makes the game too casual, too easy, too low skill. Personally, I'm really in favor of it. Of course, there are plenty of games that would have their gameplay balance completely thrown off if they used this mechanic, but it makes a lot of sense here. In campaign mode, yeah, it makes the gameplay a little less strategic, but encourages the player to be more bold with their approach. Since I view these campaigns more as action movies than as interesting challenges, I think it works perfectly. And for multiplayer, it's a no-brainer. This system makes way more sense for the quick action of a COD multiplayer. Whether or not you like that type of quick action is a different story. I don't really. We're talking about the single-player mode, which once again consists of a Soviet campaign, a British campaign, and an American campaign, a structure I am beginning to tire of. Good thing you start with the Russian campaign, though. So far, those have been the dreariest, and this game is no exception, so it's nice to get that out of the way first. And I like that the American campaign is last. You should really have to earn the privilege of being able to play as the American character. As soon as the game kicks off, this feels like a whole new era for Call of Duty. The new mechanics, the more intuitive controls, the streamlined healing process, the new high-quality widescreen graphics are all obvious improvements, but the more subtle stuff is not to go unnoticed. Like how the muzzle flash blocking your vision was a big problem in the first 2, that's been completely ironed out. The arenas you move through have bigger, more detailed environments, allowing for different approaches in a lot of missions. They really tightened up the gunplay. It's so solid it would barely evolve over the next 10 years. Although it is a shame that you can't lean out anymore, and the aim assist is a little strong. It's borderline auto-aim. I'm not sure how I feel about it. You probably don't like it. Also, the gun is kinda low in the frame. Looks a little weird. Although this might have something to do with having to make the game work in different aspect ratios. I like the emphasis on strategic uses of smoke grenades to get around tanks or machine gun lines or the like. Pairs nicely with how often they have you planting explosives on moving vehicles. There are a couple missions where you drive a tank. I found them to be a bit bland, and I still don't like driving a tank in first person, but they function just fine. We see the return of pistols in the campaign. There's still no... Hey, wait a second. There's still no shotguns. That's 4 Call of Duty games so far and 0 shotguns. Ammo pickup is now automatic, smart. I really appreciate the addition of the grenade indicator, indicating a grenade. NPCs react to getting shot in specific spots, and their death animations are super detailed. Fuck yeah. Placement of enemies feels a bit more intentional, at least on normal difficulty, although there were a lot of them. It was no problem on normal, but would have been crazy on veteran. I don't want to play a COD campaign on veteran. I just want to be engaged enough to where I'm not sleepwalking through it, and then give me a handful of moments where I have to lock in a little bit. But I don't want to die a million times or have to take things too slow. I take things slow when I play Hitman. When I play a COD campaign, I want to take things fast and hard, like Tom Cruise. Cinematic gameplay moments that aren't just shooting are more plentiful, making you feel like an actual guy. This ambush part was like, whoa, surprised the crap out of me. The D-Day landing is a clear standout and not derivative of anything at all. The attention paid to weather and environments allows scenes to feel more dramatic than they did in the first game. Your squad of fellows is more vocal, although they don't have the same level of personality as your squad in Big Red 1. And to be honest, I connected better with the characters in Finest Hour than I did with the guys in this game, and I freaking hate Finest Hour. But in retrospect, I appreciate that game gave you a little tidbit about each character before you played as them. They were paper thin, but at least I can remember and distinguish them. And I like having some cutscenes. In Call of Duty 2, I couldn't name a single thing about a single person you play as. I don't even know if you played as multiple people in each campaign or just one guy in each campaign. The only character in the whole game I can remember is Captain Price, but that's just because he's Captain Price. It's clear that Infinity Ward were still looking at the characters as little more than a vessel for the player, which would be fine if the storyline itself was a bit more interesting, but really it's just the same thing as the other ones. 3 loosely connected plot lines that are just about fighting Nazis and winning the war, and that's hard to get invested in. Like, I already know the ending of World War II. You gotta make the story about something specific if you want this guy interested. The Modern Warfare trilogy was also not too focused on strong character-based storytelling, but the larger conflict in that trilogy was a lot more interesting because it was completely fictional, so you had no idea where it was going to go. And it told the story of that conflict over the course of 3 games, whereas these early CODs just seem to be showing you the entire war each time, through slightly different perspectives, but sometimes those perspectives are not that different at all. I just couldn't get invested in the story, and I didn't care about any of the characters, and I already know how the central conflict is going to end because of school and movies, and also because of the 2 previous games that showed me how it ends. But it's just a framework to hang interesting and fun gameplay scenarios on. The story's completely serviceable. The visuals and presentation were quite nice, and technically this is the best looking game in the series so far, but in some ways it felt like a step down from Big Red 1. The menu, while clean and crisp, lacks most of the character from that game, although I found it interesting that when you go to view the controller layout, they use an actual photograph of an Xbox 360 controller, and the visuals, while really impressive for the time, feel a bit weaker stylistically than Big Red 1. This kind of thing is entirely subjective, but I found that game to be far better looking on the whole. And while I think the shooting and gameplay mechanics are definitely superior in Call of Duty 2, I am annoyed that it doesn't let you cook grenades like you could in the other one. You can hold them in your hand indefinitely, but when you throw them, it's always the same delay until they explode. But I can't deny that the core of the game is stronger here than any of the others, and for most people that play Call of Duty, that's going to be the most important thing. For me personally, though, as I age, I find myself valuing story and presentation more and more, so my opinions about these games going forward might get a little weird. I was noticing, like, a lot more blood in this game than before, and then I looked at the box and realized that all these games so far, including this one, are rated T. It's very interesting since I always consider this to be a hardcore grown-up franchise these days. Mysteriously, most of the cast of Big Red 1 are listed in the credits of this game, but I do not recall running into any of these characters at any point. On IMDb, they're listed as playing the same characters again, but on the Call of Duty wiki, all those characters are listed as having only appeared in Big Red 1. And IMDb lists Mark Hamill as the narrator in this game too, except he doesn't actually appear in the game's credits at all. I don't know, I guess the narrator kinda sounds like Mark Hamill. Kinda doesn't though. What's going on? Whoever the narrator is, the voiceover during these news segments is very, very dry, lacking the fun throwback nature of Hamill's voiceover in Big Red 1 or the sexy gravitas of the Allstate guy in Finest Hour. Yet another area where Finest Hour is better than Call of Duty 2. Joking aside, even revisiting a location from Finest Hour at the end of this game left a sour taste in my mouth, though that part was obviously done much betterly by Call of Duty 2. This game is an incredibly solid time, a massive improvement upon the original, even if it's not the best one of all of them. them, although I'm getting a little sick of the World War II setting. I don't know if I'm going to be able to play 20 more of these, you guys. The line at the end of the credits gave me a chuckle. I wasn't expecting comedy from you rascals. The multiplayer, well, the Xbox servers are still up, so I decided to temporarily sign back up for Xbox Live, only to learn that Xbox Live no longer exists. Instead, you have to just sign up for Game Pass, and you get online play as one of the benefits. And after all that, it seemed like nobody was online. I couldn't find a game. Luckily, they finally added split screen, so I was able to invite my boy over and have a little sesh. We played every map in the base game at least once, but we're gonna have to wait until 2006 for the complete experience. It's a fun enough multiplayer, but extremely vanilla. They don't really have classes yet. You just pick a gun you want to use, and everything else is standardized, but each faction has a different set of guns to choose from. There is a shotgun in this, which is insanely overpowered. I'm not sure why they thought it wouldn't be appropriate for the campaign. I'm happy to see him here. I also have it on good authority that most of the other games had shotguns in the multiplayer too. Who cares? This is certainly a very good game, but it's hard to recommend to anyone that isn't just interested in seeing what an old COD is like. It is much easier to get your hands on than the previous games, but at the end of the day, the crown still rests with Big Red 1 so far. Try to get your hands on that one if you can. Until then, I'd say check out the movie The Nice Guys. Even if you've already seen it, it's worth revisiting. I've been Ghost from Call of Duty, and this has been a review of The Binding of Isaac. Give this video a like and subscribe to my channel.